let's, first of all, before we get to the FX market, let's talk about yields, because I think very interesting dynamics we're seeing right now. Last week alone, we saw yields up somewhere around 50 basis points. The big question is, what is the end game of the central bank? Now, we know typically you could want to make yields higher to attract investors to mop up liquidity, but I get the sense that that is not the case here. What's your view?
Well, basically, I think they're trying, like you said, to attract foreign investors, because if you get the data, the latest data from the CBN, the reserves have lost almost $5 billion in 3 months.
Yeah.
And that is a concern. I mean, as you trend towards the end of the year, the political risk is there. You are also having rate increase in the States. The only other way to attract investment is to jack up your rates.
Right.
So I think that's their strategy at the moment, to see how much investors they can attract.
What is your gut feeling? Will it work? Do you think it's all about rates right now, or do you think this whole risk-off sentiment towards emerging markets will continue and this perhaps will not work?
It's a 50-50 situation, really.
We'll grab some
you
liquidity.
get some hedge funds that are more inclined to emerging markets. Will look, because they'll consider the different countries in the emerging. They'll consider you versus Turkey versus Egypt, and see they have to invest in emerging markets anyway. So if your rates are higher, they will come to you. But then you have the big ones that will say, "Oh, there's too much stress because of the political risk. Let's sit and wait and see what will happen after the elections." But maybe, like I said, it's a 50-50 chance. You might see some people that will say, why not Nigeria?
It's always difficult to call this, but how much higher do you think yields could go? Where do you see us, say, by December?
Honestly, well, if I knew that, if I had a crystal ball, I would tell you. But the way the CBN is going, we don't know what they're going to do this week, for example, because last week rates went up by 50 basis points. We don't know if that will continue weekly, or they will take a step back and say, let's see the reaction. Let's see how much FX we've been able to accumulate, or they will jack up the rates once more.
But help us paint the picture. It's not as though for the flows from offshore have completely dried up, or is that the case?
No. You still, like I said, you still see some people that are still doing the yield play, because, I mean, Nigeria is still an attractive market relative to other markets.
Strong double-digit yields.
Yeah, so... yeah, and then, of course, there's the oil price factor. As long as oil are at this level, some people take a risk on Nigeria. So really, no, I wouldn't say it has dried up completely.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about this wholesale FX auction. Help us understand how it works in the context of the broader market, because I think very often we speak about the I&E window where we know foreign investors play. So what is this wholesale FX auction, and how does it work?
It's another window where the CBN comes and sells FX to the corporates, and it has a single rate. So you come and well, it's wholesale because it means that a bank will bid one volume and one price and then sell to their clients. So it's one of the two windows that the CBN uses. There's the wholesale FX market, and then there's the retail FX market.
Right.
The wholesale market holds every Monday.
Okay.
And then the retail is twice in a month.
Okay. But the central bank still intervenes in the I&E window directly as well, right? Yes,
they do.
Okay.
All right.
So it'll be interesting to see how aggressive they will be going forward, because you've made a very strong point about the reserves. Would you get a sense that that decline in reserves is worrying some foreign investors at this time, or would you say they are robust enough and no need to panic just yet?
I don't think it. I mean, as long as the CBN meets the demand at that window, they're comfortable that whenever they want to get out, there's supply.
So the liquidity is still flowing at this point.
I mean, yes, CBN, like you said, is a player in that market, but they're mainly on the sell side. So that gives comfort to anybody coming to Nigeria that if the market doesn't supply the demand I want, at least the CBN will. So that is a plus for the CBN, because they will always meet the demand at that window.
Okay, so let's take this conversation to where the exchange rate is likely to go. So that crystal ball again. Where do you see things going before the end of December? With that very steady, many will say gradual, but now significant when you look at it over the last 3 months, decline in the FX reserves, it may make that the case for perhaps maybe some moderate depreciation. We've seen a little bit already in the I&E window. Yeah. So do you think we could see more before the end of the year?
I doubt it, because don't forget also they are going to issue a 2.7 billion euro bond. That is going to go to the reserves. I mean, the CBN will buy that from the federal government. So that will help in accretion to your reserves.
Right.
And like I mentioned earlier, the oil prices being at these levels also helps your reserves. So yeah, you will see the fact that there's been more outflow than inflow, but it's like you said, it's a gradual and it's a steady build-up. It's not like we used to, and they were building up these reserves for this purpose anyway. So it's meeting the purpose for which it was set up in the first place, as in the accretion to reserves. They've been gradually, for the past, before the emerging market risk, or for the past like 3 or 4 months, the CBN was gradually building up the reserves from the INE window to meet such demand at such a time.
Because this is the scenario that I am seeing with the whole FX market, is that we've talked about political risk. It is certainly a factor that many foreign investors are considering. But as we move closer to the elections, I think it's even going to be magnified. And as a result, we could see even the little liquidity that we're seeing even dry up further. And so if that were to happen, then I think there is a real strong conversation to have about whether or not we allow the currency to depreciate a little more.
The truth of the matter is the political will to depreciate is not, I don't think anything will happen till after the elections. So the CBN will continue to protect the
I'm not
currency.
suggesting like a 5 naira, 10 naira change. I'm saying maybe 1, 2 naira.
I mean, you can see that from now, because if you look at the different types of windows, there's been a gradual conversion of those rates. I mean, the wholesale auction closed at 359.25. The prior week, it closed at 360. So you see that there's a conversion between some of those windows and the INE window.
Right.
And the INE window has been steady at 365 levels. Yeah, it will shoot up quite a bit, but it will come down to the 365. So if I'm going to predict what interest it will be by the end of the year, I will say maybe a 366 levels. I'm not sure it will do more than that.
All right. Okay, so let's look more short term now. And this coming week, your expectations for yields. We saw major movements last week. What do you anticipate this week?
Same levels. I mean, market reacted to the increase in yields last week, so we're probably going to see that trend in this week, and probably maybe the PFAs, the big players in the market, will cherry pick.
Any major liquidity inflows expected, FAC, anything like that happening this week?
FAC was the meeting held last week, so we expect the inflow Monday, Tuesday, sometime this week, yes.
Right,
yeah.
So certainly